This class is called Showing You How to Go from Zero Hero to Pro Surfer Mathematically. Prepare to learn some equations that are as true as the laws of physics. People don't think that a fundamental concept goes that deep, but the thing is, fundamental means backbone, and that is the whole game. Okay, that is the whole game. Backbone of the sport means like that is the most important thing that you should learn. Does that make sense? So like when people hear the word fundament, they often get scared, if that makes sense, because it's like, oh no, fundamental means I should already know it because like it's basic. Fundamental and basic are completely different. Basic is like, I don't know, it's a completely different realm of word than fundamental. Fundamental is like trust in a relationship is fundamental, right? If you don't have trust, the relationship doesn't exist. And it's a relationship in between anyone, a business relationship. Trust is the most important thing, right? Relationship in between a couple, trust is the most important thing. So like a fundamental means backbone. It doesn't mean basic, or it doesn't mean that everybody knows it by default. Now, I'm going to show you the equations that mathematically are going to take your surfing to the next level just with one decision. So more weight forward equals balance, control, and stability. And then this is how we can see it here. When you have your weight on the back foot, you get pushed and then you get knocked over. And then when you have the weight on the front foot, you get pushed and then you keep your balance. You both have experienced this. Does that make sense? You both know this. Now, I want you to give me your opinions on how weight forward has increased your balance through rotations, through going straight, and then tell me how do you feel about this equation. We're gonna do a little bit of it, like, so now we're gonna start with Sloan. Unmute yourself and then please tell me about how you've experienced this equation change your surfing.
Yeah, through weight forward, like not only does it help you keep your weight forward and well, not only does it help you keep your balance on land, but it keeps you much more balanced on the surfboard because you're putting your weight on the fattest part of the board. So it's given me a lot more stability and a lot more flow control and a lot more confidence when I'm doing maneuvers.
When you're doing really fast changes of direction, you have more balance, right? And then also, this not only helps a competitive surfer, but it doesn't only help a competitive surfer. It helps also a beginner surfer, because a beginner surfer that's stuck with the weight on the back, like for example, this first posture that you're doing in here, this is the ISA posture right here, right? You have absolutely no balance through that posture. Does that make sense? So like you get knocked over really easily. So that's like that's why I'm showing you this, because this is like the whole game right here, and then people don't realize how important this thing is. Does that make sense? So in here you get more balance when you get pushed, and then like now Rhodes, tell me how you feel about this concept and how it has changed the way you look at the sport now that you're doing some really advanced turns.
Hmm. Yeah, so it's helped a lot with my surfing. Like whenever we were in El Salvador, whenever we were studying it, like I felt like I was going so much faster. The turns were getting a lot better. I was tucking my back knee in more because since you have your weight over your front foot, your back knee is more liable to tuck in. And I remember that whenever before I started studying with you, that whenever I had my back weight, all my turns were super slow, and I most of the time I fell off the surfboard.
Okay, so it is giving you the ability to stay on top of your surfboard during fast changes of direction. Is that correct or not? Okay, so like that's we're just checking equation by equation and just sharing our opinions on each equation, and then like we're gonna demonstrate how mathematically one decision can change the whole game. And then if you understand this, then no matter if you're a professional or like, this is the thing, you either surf good or not. And then also this equation shows how you either surf good or not. You could go from doing the best turn of your life to doing the worst turn of your life in the next one because of one decision. Does that make sense? So this is the most important like concept in surfing. Now let's go to the next equation. Okay, so rail forward equals rail engagement and speed. Okay, so like this is a really powerful, really good one. Rail engagement is a byproduct of having your weight on the front foot. Rail engagement is what creates speed. Yes, you can turn and pivot off your back foot, but that is a negative pivot turn. And here, like we can see it, negative pivot turn. Okay, what is a negative pivot turn? It's a turn that slows you down as you change direction, right? You can go up the wave. Okay, you can go up the wave and do a negative pivot turn. Negative pivot turn means that you're slowing down as you go to your desired target, basically. And then now we're gonna just see a few examples of that. Let's see. Okay, now a lot of people would debate me on this and be like, oh, like, is the real engagements create through looking where you want to go? It's the back foot. You put the weight on the back foot, and the real engagement's created through looking where you want to go, right? A lot of people has told me that, and I'm like, no. Well, you look at these surfers; they're both looking in the direction they want to go. One has real engagement, and the other one doesn't. One is doing a basketball trick pass, and the other one isn't even engaging a basketball trick pass, right? One is Kyle Lenny, and then the other one's a surfer that's just up and coming. But then this is the thing. There's a massive difference in here, and it's rail engagement. You can measure the success of a surfer by how engaged the rail is of their surfboard. Does that make sense? You can measure the success of a surfboard by how engaged the rail is of their surfboard. This is a really important concept because like rail engagement is a byproduct of weight distribution, right? And you can have an upper body rotation that is correct and then still have that back foot. So you can do everything like right. You can turn your head, you can, like turn your upper body in the right way and still have weight on the back foot. So that's why it's really important to connect both things. It's not about just look up the lip and then kick off your back foot. This is what's going to happen, and then you're going to slow down for your turn, right? Now, this is from the World Surfing League's website. This is one of the most amazing classes I've ever given to you guys. And then I just want you to appreciate that, and then like, because it's so important, right? Judges analyze the following elements when scoring waves: commitment, degree of difficulty, innovative and progressive maneuvers, combination of major maneuvers, variety of maneuvers, speed, power, and flow. Speed, power, and flow are all a byproduct of weight distribution. Now, how do you generate speed on a surfboard? Really important. You generate speed through rail engagement. So, rail engagement equals speed. The only way to generate speed is through engaging your whole rail on the water. Okay? Not through dragging the tail on the water. People say, oh, like, you just gotta engage the fins. That's another comment that I've heard many times. Oh, engage the fins, engage the fins. Dude, if it was about engaging the fins and back full weight, everybody would surf like John Florence, and that's not the case. But this is the thing. Core lords like to think that they surf like John Florence in their head because everybody has their ego so high. And then listen, dude, I have lost so many friends through just teaching this concept because they're like, no, this is not how it is. This is not how it is. This is not how it is. Everybody thinks that they have the correct answer, and everything is back full weight because surfing on top of your back foot is easier in the long run. 100%. Surfing on top of your back foot is the easiest thing ever. It's so easy. It's so easy, but again, you go slow. Why is it easy? Because you go slower, right? Everybody has, like, most people in the world are regular surfer. Most people in the world are regular surfer. And most people in the world, their back foot is the strongest foot, so it's the easier to use. They perceive, so like it's the easier explanation. Everybody like to think that they do the thing that they love the most nice. And I understand that 98% of the people in the world think that surfing is a back-footed sport. I know it. I'm not oblivious to it. I know what they do, and I've tried that, and it sucks. Completely sucks. It creates a bigger of a difference in between me and my favorite surfers, and it sucks because people don't understand that rail engagement is one of the most important things. Let's see a couple more examples of this, right? Let's see. This is again. I don't even know who this surfer is. This one's Gabriel Medina, and then back foot kick versus front foot kick, right? Dude, Medina's foot is not even on the board at this point. It's not. People think that he's on top of his back foot right there because it's an optical illusion. But then you know how I still know that in this, like at this moment, he has the weight on the front foot because of the rail engagement, right? And the speed that he produces. Obviously, he fabricated a lot of speed on the on before this turn, but then like again, he maintained the rail engagement the whole way through, which means he kept the weight forward the whole way through. Negative pivot turn, again, slowing down as you change direction. Kicking off the back foot. Every core lord in the world says, kick off the back foot, kick off the back foot, and then front foot. You know, you know what people usually say? There's two types of people. People that think that surfing is a back-footed sport, and they kick off the back foot through every single rotation, and they look like this, and they don't even know that rail engagement is like, oh, rail engagement. They think that rail engagement is engaging 30% of the rail. Oh, yeah, 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 just like from the fins down. I engage my rail. No, 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 no. Professional surfers engage the rail up until the nose. Okay? Up until the nose, not just the tail. Up until the nose, professional surfers engage the rail. Easy, easy, bro. Not the 30% of it. It's funny because like there is a part at the end of your surfboard that is sharper and it has a sharper edge, and they're like, oh yeah, yeah, this is the part that cuts through the water and then displays that much spray. Dude, just look at the difference in spray right here. You know, it's abysmal, right? Again, this surfer would swear that the weight goes on the back foot. And then this surfer, maybe it doesn't even know because it's subconscious. It doesn't mean that professional surfers are not smart if they say that the weight goes on the back foot. It just means that it's a subconscious thing. They learn it from such a young age that they forgot that, they forgot about it. Okay? So like the more way forward, the more rail engagement, and the more speed. And then since speed is the currency in the sport of surfing, right? Speed is the currency in the sport of surfing. Again, we've talked about it a lot. And then so that's the most important thing that you should be able to try to generate. The WSL judging criteria is written on weight distribution terms because speed, power, and flow are all a byproduct of weight distribution. The secret is to focus on fundamental concept backbone. That's the enlightenment that you're looking for. Power is a byproduct of rail engagement. I didn't even wrote it here because I didn't have space, and then like just but then power is rail engagement because water displacement is rail engagement. Does that make sense? So displaying power is displaying speed and then having rail engagement. So speed and power are a byproduct of rail engagement, and rail engagement is a byproduct of weight distribution. So how do you sink your rail? By having the way forward. Again, nobody's gonna be able to decompose the sport like this. People that are gonna say like, another thing that I've heard, surfing is a transition of weight. That's the other thing that I've listened to. It's a transition of weight. You have to transition from back foot to front foot. Dude, you know how long a turn lasts? A proper good turn lasts 1 second. Do you think that in that 1 second you're gonna change direction, like like back foot, front foot, back foot, front foot all the time? You go crazy, bro. If you have to think about that.
I think that's what people most often think. I think that's what most of the people in the world think is that the weight is a transition from back to front or front to back, which just results in a bog, so it can't be possible.
Exactly. And now, from dude, you surf really good. You're a competitive surfer. Tell me, is it easy to use the way forward the whole time? Yes or no?
It's difficult until you can get it to become subconscious, but once you're doing it and you're placing the maneuvers right and you're keeping your weight forward, it makes everything easier.
So the way forward for the whole maneuver is easier than actual having to change weights in the maneuver, which makes everything more complicated.
Yeah.
Why do like tell me one reason why transitioning like weight in a turn makes it really complex.
First of all, it's like the maneuver's 1 second. You do not have much time to be able to transition your weight multiple times in a maneuver.
Exactly. One reason. Give me another one.
Also, when you place your weight back and then try to engage the rail forward, it results in a bog.
Why does that result in a bug? So I'm gonna give you the explanation because it's a negative. It's a negative dog dive. A dog dive, you sink the front end of the board and then the back end of the board. When you do back, like tail to rail, like that's how I like to call it, tail to rail. Going tail to rail is a dog dive, because it's a dog dive, reverse dog dive, because you sink the tail first and then you go into the rail, and then that what that creates is that you oversink the board, which is the definition of bogging rail. Surfing is a front-footed sport, and there's one decision that you have to take in order to do that, and it's so easy after, but it's like, it's a little bit of debunking a myth, becoming into a really good competitive surfer. You have to debunk this myth in your head, or you have to accidentally be a front-footed surfer, which is most professional surfers these days. They are naturally front-footed. When they get conscious, sometimes in a turn, they're kicking with the back foot, and then that's when they bog a rail. They're gonna try to blame it on something else, and then often, very often, you hear professional surfers say this.
Most of our surfing we learned from such a young age that it's ingrained into reflexes in how we surf.
Yeah.
And I see this is crazy because it comes full circle to like any amateur surfer out there asking how to surf better. I went through this going from 0 airs to like, I have my brother who's the best surfer in the world, like, hey, give me your knowledge on how to do airs. Like I need to learn. Like you said, I was doing like 2-3 hour sessions a day at logs and in the worst storm winds ever.
Yeah.
Over and over, my body just slamming on the water. Like could not get it. My head was looking down. Like, and I was studying footage, and I was coming in like near tears in a rage. Like
So frustrated.
so frustrated. And I'm like, dude, like John, like help me out here. What's the deal? And it was like this crazy process because he was like, okay, you just need a ton of speed. You go down the line, you need good wind, and you go off the section. And I'm like,
Yeah, he's like,
don't say that to me again, because I just did that for a month straight every day. And then he was like, okay, you're right. But this is what's funny. And we're great at the things we are, and it's all instinctual now because we learned it when we were young. John had to like learn how to teach me what he had learned.
because
If
it's
that
so
makes sense.
natural for
It's
him.
so natural for
Yeah.
him. All it was in his head was pump down the line and go off the section.
Like I just have to let myself. When I'm surfing by myself or with my brothers and friends, you don't think about how you're going to surf. You don't think about any of it. You just take off on a wave and you just start reacting to what's happening. And that's when I compete my best, is when I'm in that mindset of just allowing myself to surf. Yeah. And I guess that's kind of what I say in my head is like I just have to let myself surf. And I know that I'm going to do a pretty good job at it, and being confident in that. And yeah, that's kind of like how it happened and how I was able to like feel relaxed and enjoy the whole moment, and it be like one of the best wins of my career.
Oh, so cool. I studied Kelly.
They're gonna try to explain or break down what they say in the easiest way possible, and then the easiest explanation is, what is the easiest explanation? Oh, the weight's on the back foot. So like they're gonna go with whatever sounds easier. Does that make sense? But that doesn't mean that that's the correct way, and that's one of the biggest loopholes in surfing right now. It's one of the biggest things that needs to be explained in order for people to understand. So like again, wave forward equals power or equals spray. Spray is a byproduct of rail engagement. The more rail on the water, the more water is displaced. It's that simple. So power is a byproduct of rail engagement, and rail engagement, is a byproduct of wave forward. So wave forward equals power. That's the equation. That's the magic equation that you have to remember. Wave forward equals power. Spray is a byproduct of rail engagement. The more rail in the water, the more water is displayed. It's that simple. And if rail engagement is a byproduct of wave forward, then you produce more spray with your wave forward. Very simple, isn't it? Right? So what is the spray formula? We've gone through this before. You remember the spray formula? We've talked about this. The spray formula is really simple. Full rail engagement on the bottom turn, full rail engagement on the top turn, front-footed transition in between rails. Right? So you want to have your rail engage on the bottom turn, transition in between rails with your wave forward to generate speed. While you're changing rails, you can generate speed too. This is a nuanced concept. This is what separates the best from someone that's just pretending. The nuances of speed that you can get, that's how you generate your own speed. Listen, anyone can generate speed by going up and down the wave. Anyone. That's the easy. It's so easy. Anyone can do that. Right? But only really good surfers know how to generate their own speed through body movements. And that requires a fully front-footed surfer. Generating speed in between turns, in between rails, is one of the biggest skills that you can learn. If you want to displace water, okay, you gotta get all the nuances of speed. Does that make sense? Way forward equals flow. How to change rails easily is easy. This is gonna be another one that's gonna be really. So to change rails easy, you need to flatten the surfboard first, so the full belly of the surfboard is fully connected with the water, meaning have your weight forward on transition. Rail, okay, full rail, that's the process, right? Then full belly of the board connected to the water, then rail again. Okay, so like let's see it. So like, see how in between rails, John Florence is skimming across the water, right? With the weight forward. How do I know the weight's forward? Another way I can know is that the hips are forward and the knee is tucked in. Transition, right? Important moment, because you need to know how to change rails. Nobody knows how to change rails, I promise you. Only professional surfers that surf subconsciously way forward know how to change rails good. And if someone is changing rails 2 turns in a row, that's usually because it's like an accident, basically. You know, subconsciously they did things right for a moment. Doesn't mean that people don't do proper turns sometimes. It means that, can they replicate them? That's the question that you gotta be able to answer. Can you replicate those turns? Does that make sense? Okay.
But he didn't surf that well, and we were like, okay, he's from Oaxaca, he's probably surfs good, but he surfed okay. But then I went on a surf trip to Oaxaca with him, and I like saw him coming in. He would always put his weight back, and then all of a sudden I see him on a wave out the back, and he gets 2 big turns where he's like releasing the tail, and I'm like, how does he surf so bad one day, and then surf amazing the other day? Like, and that's the disconnection between conscious and subconscious.
It is exactly what you're saying. It is exactly what you're saying. Listen, what you just said is so beautiful right there, because like that means that maybe he performs everything right sometimes, but then there's no consistency, because if there's wrongful concepts in the mind, then that means that, let's just say that he naturally front-footed when he's like, like releasing the tail on some turns, and then let's say that when he's like when he is sometimes surfing, he gets conscious and he's like, I'm gonna push off my back foot, and then like that's where the mistake goes. So it doesn't mean that you're condemning every single surfer on earth because they're like, they think that the weight's in the back foot. When they do things right, they're surfing front footed. They don't realize, if they wanna become consistently good and access different levels of speed, they need to know when they do things right, so they can repeat. That is the beauty of it. It doesn't mean that before you receive these classes you never do a proper turn, Sloan. It means learn what exactly you did when you did things right, so you can repeat. That's what it means.
He had that one good wave, but he could never repeat it. He would never realize what he did correct on that wave to be able to repeat it.
That concept is called cognitive dissonance. That is how the concept is. Cognitive dissonance means there's subconscious idea and there's conscious idea, because there's 2 parts of the brain. Again, conscious 5% of the brain, subconscious 95% stays out of our awareness. Now I want you to notice one thing in here, and then like 2 different movement patterns in here. This is really cool. So like, notice how his board right here is skimming across the water really nicely, right? And then in here he's kicking the tail of the board. Does that make sense? Now, kicking the tail of the board is always going to lift the belly of the board. Always. Always, always, always. Now, there and here, right, he is transitioning rails, and then his board is skimming across the water with the full belly on. Obviously, the front end is not, because like there's a little bit of rocker right there, you know. Like that's like, you know, he cannot fight that rocker, but like the belly is on the water at that time. Does that make sense? That moment in time, right? So this is really important that you learn to understand this. So definition of flow: being able to change rails easy, also generates speed in between rails. Easy rail to rail is not something that pro surfers should do. Everyone in the world should learn how to change rails easy, from beginner to pro. And the thing is that there is only one way to do it. Master your weight being on the front foot before and after and through transitions. The cool part is that if you learn the pro way to do it, that's it. You go from zero to hero, because there's just one way of doing things right. This is the thing, there's only one way to do things right. Transitioning in between rails, going rail to rail easy, way forward. The board skimming across the water, flat. Okay? Every single time that you change rails, the board should be flat, right? So like you can see here how he changed rails so easy, John.
You can also see where you paused it earlier, a difference in the postures. One looks like a very confident posture, and one looks
Exactly.
very awkward.
It looks awkward, but it doesn't mean like you can never use the back foot. Just use it for stalling. Use it for braking. Use it for slowing down. Okay, you cannot accelerate your board with the same movement pattern that you're stalling. Does that make sense? You cannot accelerate your board with the same movement pattern that you're stalling. With the moment that you understand that is the moment that you're just gonna take your surfing to the next level really easily. That's how it is. Does that make sense? If the surfboard's belly on the water, then the weight is forward. Do you want to be able to generate speed in between turns? That should be your aim. Not only because it's the way to change rails easily, but the speed is the currency in surfing. The thing is, you don't really have an option. If you want to surf well, because there's really only one way to do it, you have to transition rails this way, or you're bogging rail often. So like you either change rails like this. You see the belly of the board is fully connected. I want you to see it here. You see? Moment before he changed rails. What is happening? The board is skimming across the water. It's just the rocker that is not letting the board, you know, fully be like the board clearly has a rocker, but it's skimming across the water straight. It's not the same as when he is stalling and kicking the tail of the board. It is not the same. The moment you realize that, it's the moment that you're going to be able to get better. Does that make sense? It's not the same thing. Easy transition in between rails is a way forward process. Okay? So easy. Okay. Way forward equals style. Okay, this is really easy. The knee tuck 10 is a byproduct of weight on the front foot. Okay? The knee tuck 10 is a byproduct of weight on the front foot. Fact 1. Professional surfers compress and extend off their front foot. When you compress and extend off your front foot, you automatically tuck in the knee. A knee tucked in is something that surfers have been using to measure style for ages, but they never understood that it's a byproduct of having your weight forward. Does that make sense? People don't know that. A knee tucked in, if you put your weight on the front foot and you get low off your front foot, then automatically you're tucking your knee without thinking about it. But this is the thing that I didn't understand as I was getting better. I didn't know it, and then this killed my surfing completely. People say keep your weight on the back foot. Keep your weight on the back foot and tuck in your knee at the same time. And I was like, this is the hardest thing to do. So hard to have the knee tucked in. And then some surfers would say that to me. It'd be like, dude, tuck in your knee. You have your knees open all the time. I was a back-footed surfer, right? I was a back-footed surfer, so like my stance was always with the knee on, like, you know, the knee was untucked. So compression and extension, or will we see this video that I shown you, right? So like he's John Florence saying that every single time that he goes through those front side carves, you have your back, or every single front side carve John does. Again, he tucks in the knee. Knee tucked in is a byproduct of weight on the front foot. You compress and extend of your front foot, and then you have your tucked in knee naturally. One big cognitive dissonance that I had before was I thought that I had the worst style ever, right? Because I could never tuck in my knee in turns, like people will tell me like your knees are open all the time. Of course, because I was pushing with my back foot. As soon as you push with your back foot, the knee opens up because when you're trying to apply weight, the knee has to go straight, right? When you're trying to apply weight, your foot goes like your foot's lifted right here, right? Like you can see here, that guy's foot's lifted on the compression. Okay, does that make sense? And then in here, it's the same too. The thing is that you cannot see it because like he's through a really fast rotation, but the knee's tucked in. So if the knee is tucked in, the foot is not even fully there. Another thing that points to that he has the way forward in this occasion is his hips are forward, and then it's impossible to have your weight, you know, on the opposite foot that your hips are not, it's impossible. You guys know that. You can tell where the weight is by the position of the hips. Stand up right now and put your hips over your left foot and notice how the weight goes there. Now try the opposite. Put your hips over your right foot and notice how the weight goes there. It's also impossible to have your hips over your left foot and have the weight on the opposite foot. The hips naturally move to the foot you decide to have the weight on, and that's how your body works. Professional surfers have the hips all the time forward to engage the rail, to have power, speed, and flow to turns. So he has his hips forward in every single carve. Look at his hips. They're not on top of the back foot, they're on top of the front foot. That's that plus the knee tucked in, plus the rail engage. He has his way forward. Right? Now, why is it that people cannot surf good? Like, why is it that nobody can emulate these guys? Nobody can copy them because they surf with the weight on the back. And then when you surf with the weight on the back, the rail disengages, the knee opens up, and then the hips are on the opposite foot. And then you guys know how that looks. Again, I'm trying to show you how to do this mathematically. Does that make sense? Okay, so now do the push stance. Have your weight on the back, put your weight on the back foot. Okay? But don't disconnect the front foot completely. Now, is the knee tucked in? Yes or no?
Nope, it's facing this way.
Now tuck in the knee, and then put the weight forward. Okay, completely different posture. Does that make sense? It's a completely different posture. You're gonna go compress over your front foot. Okay, yes, really good. Now try to transition your weight to the back slowly. Okay, stop right there. Not so extreme. Do it now 50-50 weight. Compress 50-50 weight. Okay, now a little bit more weight on the back. There you got it. It's a little bit more of a poo stance. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right now, knee tucked in again. Okay, so like when you tuck in the knee, automatically the foot lifts, right? So like that's the point that I wanted to just like illustrate right there. So fact number 2, it's impossible to have your weight in a tucked in knee because the foot's not even there. So stand up and try to have your weight on the back foot and then tuck in the knee. It's unnatural and impossible. It doesn't feel natural. It's not a natural position, and then like this is for the cheap coaches that say that carving is a back foot thing, hips are forward on every single step. You can see here. How do I know that the hips are forward? I'm gonna draw it here again. This is like for those coaches that say that the weight is back when they're carving, right? Knee is tucked in. He has John saying it on the Bibo Barefoot commercial or ad where he explains that the knees is a really vulnerable spot for the knees in here. All right, so now pull stance equals weight on the back foot. We can see it a little bit more clearly here, He has this weight on the back foot and then like the knee starts to open up. All right, so like if you wanna and the poo stance, just put the weight forward, compress over your front foot rather than over the back foot. Don't think about tucking in the knee while having the weight on the back because it's not going to work. It's going to feel unnatural. And then you're going to feel like you never progress and never have style. When you shift your weight to the back foot, you automatically shift to poo stance. With weight on the back, the knees open up and then makes you less stylish. So also style is a byproduct of weight forward. This is so beautiful. This is such a beautiful class. You know why? Because then it's just like mathematically, like it shows every sign surfing. It's a front-footed sport. There's so many different equations. It's like a sacred, like it's like a sacred equation. Like every single thing, style, power, speed, flow, beautiful posture, every single thing points out to be front-footed. Does that make sense? So like it is really hard for me to believe back foot is the thing to do when back foot, the only thing that it does, it lifts the belly of the board, it untucks the rail, and it slows you down. So that is the opposite to the judging criteria of the World Surfing League. But then again, like people is like, oh, but it depends for who. But because like if I want to surf slower, then the best thing for me is to surf back foot. Yeah, but it's gonna look bad because it's gonna poo stance, right? So you're gonna surf slow. You're gonna have a poo stance. Yeah, you're gonna feel safer, and it's better for you to feel safer. But if you measure your speed, it's gonna go really slow, and also you're gonna have less balance. So it's like you're surfing without balance, without looking good. You know, the only thing that you're doing is you're going slower, and if that's the safest thing for you, then do that.
Yeah, it's like
But
for
be
them, just like go ahead, try it, but don't look at yourself on video because you're not gonna be happy.
Exactly. You're not gonna be happy looking at yourself on video. You know, nobody's gonna be like, "Oh my God, did like that person surfs well." The only thing that might be a beneficial thing from surfing backfooted is you go slower and then you're not as scared. But then you're gonna fall more because you're not gonna have balance and control, right?
It's gonna be
You're gonna
more dangerous.
it's gonna be more dangerous in the long run. It's more dangerous if you fall more, right? So it's like you're wiping out on a turn because like you have your way backwards because you have book rail. So actually you're safer surfing way forward. But then like for people sometimes speed can be like, you know, like they don't like going fast and then that's their mind. In their mind is gonna try to justify every single way, you know, because like, oh like weights oh yeah, weights on the back foot. Yeah, but they don't understand the level of speed that a professional surfer has and then that how much you have to build towards that. Does that make sense?
They love their ego. They don't want to let go of the concepts that they've always said to be right. They're like,
Boom, you said it. Explanation from you from like a kid. You know it now. Don't ever listen to those core lords that explain that. Don't ever listen to them because they don't know what they're talking about. I swear to you, I promise to you, nobody has studied it like that. Nobody. Professional surfers, you know, like they just surf good without thinking. So don't sometimes you don't have like getting an explanation from them is like they it's so natural for them that they don't understand it so well, you know. They do it. And then some people do and don't understand, and that's fine, you know. But then this is the thing. Sometimes if it's not natural for you to surf front footed, and then you think you're back, it's back-footed, that's a really bad combination. Does that make sense? And then you cannot really understand, explain, learn surfing if you don't understand that the mind has two facets. First facet of the mind, subconscious mind, 5%, right? Which is the part that is talking. We are talking, and then we're using our conscious part right now. And the subconscious part is the one that drives your car, drives your bike. Do you think when you're driving your bicycle? No, nobody thinks when it's riding the bicycle. I don't think when I'm riding my bicycle. I don't think. Do you think? Nobody thinks. So who's driving the bicycle? If we, you and me can go on a bike ride, we can ride right next to each other. And then we can have a conversation about the universe and everything, you know, like we can have a conversation about the planets, everything. And somebody else is riding the bike. Your dad can have a conversation with you, you know, for example, oh, like you didn't do your homework, Sloan. You didn't do your homework. You didn't do your homework in here. You didn't do this. But your dad's still driving the car. Does that make sense? Who is driving the car and who's having the conversation? This part is having the conversation. This part is riding the car. Professional surfers do, right? Just like you ride your bike, they just do it. In order for you to understand high level concepts and learn easier, you need to understand that the brain has two facets. Okay, that's the most one of the most important, most beautiful concepts I can share with you. When you shift your weight to the back foot, you automatically shift to pull stance with weight in the back. The knee opens up and it makes you less stylish. Okay, so this is the two videos on here. So like knee tucked in versus knee untucked. Right? Do you remember that? You remember that, right? Now, it's important to see yourself, so like I'm trying to be as dynamic as possible. Does that make sense? So one decision changes everything. This is the end of this, by the way, so you guys don't worry about it. Okay, so like I'm not trying to kill you with a long class. One decision changes the whole game. The moment that you understand that is the moment that you're gonna take your surfing so far. Way forward equals balance, control, and stability. Way forward equals rail engagement and speed. Way forward equals more spray and power. We can say in here, way forward equals spray and more power. Because water displacement, you know, is like something, some people call that power. More flow because you can change rails easier, and more style, right? Because like if you have your knee tucked in, that's what people perceive as style. Easy. And then also a style is someone that is easy to watch and is someone that's not struggling. And someone that's not struggling is someone that has balance, control, stability. While they have their knee tucked in, this is a byproduct of weight distribution forward. This is magic right here. This is magic. And this is the reason why people cannot surf good, right?
I think it's amazing. And like I've always wondered how people who teach weight going back understand the difference of stalling, because that's placing the weight back, and how a turn doesn't look like that at all. And thinking that this is the same biomechanics for both. Looks completely different.
It's like literally there's a like I mean like it's a little bit stupid.
Like there's no logic in it.
There's no logic, but this is the thing. Reasons why I think people think that surfing is a backfooted sport, and I'm not trying to condemn anyone, but because the fins are there, and then people, I don't know, like maybe the cars with like the muscle cars, you know, like remember surfing's big in the States, so like muscle cars, so they have back traction. I mean, like
Real world
the
drive.
setup. Where do you think the word thruster comes from? From the rockets, thrusters. I think that that's where it comes from, thrusters. So it's like, oh, the thrusters, the speed's back there. But then, like, if that would be true, if having the fins being the one thing that generates the speed on a board would be
Then
true,
all
anyone.
you have to buy is fins, and you'd be the best surfer ever.
Exactly, exactly. You buy the John Florence fins, you go as fast as him. You change directions while you're going so fast, and then like why is people displacing so little spray? Anyone can buy John fins, and then why is not people surfing that deck? Because it's not about the fence. It's not the fence. It's the rail that generates the speed. Pivot. People don't understand that the surfboard is shaped like a banana, basically, right? The surfboard is a banana shape. So engaging the whole rail will actually pivot more and quicker than slowing down going through a turn. Does that make sense? So reason number like the word thrusters is easier for people to surf on the back foot because for a lot of regular surfers, the regular stance surfers, they have the stronger back leg, and then a stronger back leg, you know, like it's just easier to put weight on. So it's like, oh, like so if it's easier to put weight on and it's my strongest leg, then that should be the leg that I use. Does that make sense? So it's like, oh, strongest leg, stronger turn. But that's like that is the logic behind it. Leg, stronger turn. What other reason do you guys think people think that surfing is a back-footed sport?
Because They think that if you put more pressure on your back foot, the more spray you're gonna throw, and if you put more pressure on the fins, the faster you'll go. Maybe I don't know.
And then why is that
Um,
incorrect?
well, because your board is gonna be going like that instead of streamlined and straight. So if you put your fins on the back, you're gonna be going like that, and this is obviously a lot faster. So if you have your
Because you're
weight
dragging your tail, basically, right?
yeah,
Because you're dragging your tail, and then dragging your tail means slowing down.